Okay, welcome to the June 9th, 2022 Newmarket Conservation Commission meeting. Call order, pledge of allegiance. Okay, so we take a roll call. Here.
As So I should start with my office is having covers Rockland and Stratford County. So there's 5 field offices within the state that help cover all the counties. And our team is a nationwide agency, so really there's work that we do all over the country. The past few years, we've had a really strong focus on water quality and soil health as our top resource concerns that we really want to try and address. With our proximity to the bay and the fact that all the rivers that lead to the bay are impaired waterways, we really see a lot of opportunity to do some more there. Over 70% roughly of the land in the U.S. is privately owned. So federal land agencies can only do so much on public land. Really, we have to go on private land, work with some forest landowners, farmers, and producers on the property. So it's all volunteer-based assistance that we offer to folks. And typically we get a call, hey, I have this issue on my property. My soil is washing into my fields. I see it going into the waterways. What can I do? And so NRCS will work with them to set up a site visit. We'll come out, we'll assess the resource concerns, and present them with alternatives on how they can address them. So this might be as simple as planting a cover crop in the off-season to keep that soil in place and protect it while it's not actively growing a cash crop or commodity. We also work with conservation assistance. It's the planning, the application, the eligibility part of it. Eligibility is really not that hard to meet for our programs. You have to be a producer, so either growing a crop, whether it's trees in the forest or vegetables in your garden. The other thing is that you have to be that control of land, or have that control of land, whether you're the owner, the operator, the other tenant. And then the third step is establishing records with the Farm Service Agency, and they're the ones that will develop a farm and tract for you. The only other limitation we have is a adjusted gross income limitation, which under this farm bill is $900,000 a year. So I have not had any landowners that I've worked with that have exceeded that and not been eligible for our programs. And then the final step is implementing the practices. So it's really been a great 10 years now or so since I started with NRCS and got to see everything from doing a lot of the field work to really being the one that leads the direction in the office of the type of projects that we get to push forward and move forward on. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions people might have about what we do or how we could help you.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a quick one, Matt. I've been in a couple of the annual work group input sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you when in the year those are.
So
I've done it.
the
When
next
are they, and
one
how
is
would we
going to be coming up. It will happen probably before the end of July.
know? Oh, okay.
So there is no set date. I'm meeting with both conservation districts next week to go over kind of what we need to do this year to hold the local work group meetings. Last year and the year prior, because of COVID, we were trying to not have big in-person meetings. So last year, Rockingham and Stratford sent out flyers to a lot of producers that they had contacts for in the area. And that's how they got the input, kind of asking people to identify what is the top resource concern you see in our area? Is it protection of the land in perpetuity, easements? Is it a lack of pollinator habitat? Is it soil erosion? Is it nutrient management? So by identifying those kind of resource concerns to the people, we're able to then focus what practices get that higher ranking boost so that we see what people want implemented on the properties.
So how would we know, short of just calling RCCD or whatever, how do we know when
So
those are?
they do have to, part of the requirements for holding these meetings is they do have to post it and advertise it. I think the minimum is in at least one local newspaper, but usually they do send out a blast of information to their email contact list. So if you're not on RCCD's in our contact list, email list, that's a great thing to sign up for, to be kept in the loop on when these things are happening.
Who's the person that would be doing that? Do you know the name?
So in Rockingham County, it's Vicki Stafford right now. That would be probably the one hosting the meeting, and I would be there as well to answer any questions anybody has about NRCS programs. I'm not sure this year if they're going to have an in-person meeting or if they're just going to kind of send out a flyer for information, see where people's values are right now and where they want to see the funding go.
Because we have a weekly e-newsletter that goes out by the town, and that'd be a good place to
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
show
that
it so
would be
anybody
great.
in town would know about it and could go or participate.
Yep,
So maybe I can let Vicki know if she could
certainly.
maybe send it to me, and then I could
Yeah,
send it
we'll
on to
see
our
later.
IT
Yep.
person who's actually here. So
Yep, I know they typically do reach out to conservation commissions, so
maybe we'll
I'm
get the
not
flyer.
sure if
Yeah.
you
okay.
would get that notice or not, but great to reach out in advance because they do have a lot of other great opportunities over there.
Is there a minimum size property?
No minimum size property. You could have a postage stamp lot and have a garden in the back and have concerns about, wanting to improve the pollinator habitat around your garden.
But it
And
has
we
to be a
would do
private
all.
owner. It can't be a community owned, town owned.
It couldn't be town owned. Well, it could be town owned if the property is town owned, but that control of the property is given through a lease or a rental agreement to a certain operator. So if the Newmarket Community Garden, say, was on town land, but there was a person that manages the community garden that the town said, you have control of operating on this land to have a community garden to help produce food for the local community, then we could work with that person on town land as they would have the control of the land.
Is
So
it?
Shopmeyer sounds like it would qualify.
Shopmeyer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ish,
possibly.
ish.
And it doesn't have to be a legal agreement, or is
So there's, legal agreements are great, but we have a simple worksheet that is a landowner permission worksheet, basically, that just says, I, the landowner, Newmarket, New Hampshire, with the proper signature authority, gives permission for this person, that's gonna be the applicant, to be in control of that land for the purpose of applying for NRCS programs for the next 3, 5, 10, 20, 100 years. We can work with that form as well. Just a very simple worksheet that we use.
What if it's just technical assistance? You still can't sort of come out and chat?
We can, but it tends to go lower priority.
Yeah.
We've had a backlog for about a year and a half now, where it's taking us several months to get out to properties. But we have brought on a lot of staff this past year, and looking forward to kind of closing that gap again, where it used to be generally within a week we'd be able to schedule a site visit.
Because we have one property where's a field, and we have a farmer mow it. And it'd be nice to just chat with the farmer and us and
Yep.
maybe you and,
Yeah, and
get a little bit
simple
more
things.
input on whether we're doing it right or what, if we should do anything different. Or,
Certainly, and I'd be happy to have myself or somebody else come out. We do have programs and payments for delayed mowing for field nesting birds. If the field's over 10 acres generally, that's, as you know, that kind of
yeah.
nice number for grassland birds to use for nesting in fields. So we actually allow an early mow with that program before June 1st, because we found that if you can get a first cut in, the birds can nest still after that, and then fledge, and then they can get their next cut in August 15th generally was when we would open that back up. But just by delaying your mowing that time of the year, it provides that conservation benefit to the birds, and so we do allow that as well.
Okay.
So the town would have to have a written agreement with the farmer to apply for any,
Yep.
like late mode payment or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
What's the level of control that the town has to see? Can it just simply be mowing?
It could be, but a practice, if a application simply had delayed mowing in it, it would probably rank lower on the scale, because it would be really addressing the one kind of wildlife terrestrial habitat resource concern. And the more resource concerns you address, the higher the application is going to rank. So if that lot happened to be right on the water and there was no buffer between the field and the forest, and they were just spreading nutrients on the fields right up to the water's edge, or mowing right to the water's edge, leading to more erosion of the property, we could then insert a conservation buffer along that field edge, kind of buffering them from the waterways, so that the nutrients and the sediment don't make their way into that waterway. And that would boost it again, because now you're really getting that water quality benefit, which has been identified as a top resource priority in this local area.
So you said pollinators were a priority last year. Is that still a priority, or what is
It
your
is.
priority this year? Or?
It is a priority, so we've yet to determine our kind of fiscal year 23 priority resource concerns. We typically have about 10 priority resource concerns that we identify. But with the pollinators really becoming a top priority for a lot of towns in our area, NRCS, and in the state, NRCS now has hired a partner with the Xerces Society. And so where I don't have a background in pollinator management, I know enough from what I've learned over the years, but I can really bring in the specialist to a site visit, and they can work with the landowner to really help dial in their conservation objectives and implement that on the property. Whether that's a special seed mix, whether it's to attract beneficial insects around their high tunnel or gardens, really we can work with all of that.
Are they available for talks as well?
Yep.
No? Okay. Because we had a pollinator pathways. You know, we're kind of in that concept here, so we're trying to continue to promote that idea.
Yeah, and she's local to the area, so she would be happy to come out and make a site visit and just give
maybe
some
even
of
a
that
field,
general
like a walk
technical
in the
assistance.
field might be a way to do that.
Yep.
Okay.
And she is a pollinator nerd
What's
in
her
a good
name?
way. Alina Harris. And she's with the Xerces Society.
Great. All right, any other questions for Matt? Thank you for coming out, Matt.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
I will leave these.
Yeah, you can leave those, maybe leave them with Sue and she'll.
Perfect. And then I've also got some that are just specific to each program that we
Okay,
offer out of the
great.
office there.
People can pick those up afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. All right, so next up is Carrie Cronin. She's our library director here in Newmarket, and she's going to talk to us about this idea of a story walk. Welcome,
Hi.
Carrie.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here to request the opportunity to install a temporary story walk on the Piscassic Conservation Area for 1 week in July, July 10th through the 16th.
Gary, I think you need to,
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, maybe you speak up a little bit because it was a little soft.
Oh, sure,
They
certainly.
should let us know if you're not getting picked up.
Sure. So I'm hoping to install a temporary story walk on the Piscassic Conservation Area for 1 week in July, the 10th through the 16th. And after visiting several of the conservation sites, I selected that one because of the ease of use, or ease of access for families entering the area. And it was also popular with the scavenger hunt that we did last fall as part of the Conservation Connection event. So we think that would work similarly well for the story walk. So if you aren't familiar with how the story walks work, I brought a sample tonight. The concept was originally conceived of by Anne Ferguson of Montpelier, Vermont, as an innovative way to promote reading and the enjoyment of the outdoors for children. It involves laminating the pages of a picture book. Most are about 30 pages, and using Velcro to install them to stakes. So it's an easy installation with mallets. They are generally about 7 feet apart, so children and families can walk along and read the story together and enjoy the setting. And we've installed 4 since I started at the library last August, and they've been extremely popular. We were fortunate last fall to receive it was awarded, I guess, the beginning of this year, an ARPA grant for early literacy. It's enabled us to develop a play space at the library and also to purchase some more of the story walks. One of our story walks is currently in the garden at the recreation department. So we're looking for additional town locations to just spread the word and get kids excited about reading. Our summer reading program is starting in a few weeks, and we'd love to be able to promote that this is happening in such a beautiful place as the conservation land. So I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have.
So do you want to put them from the parking area to the woods, or do you have an idea of exactly where on the property you would want to do it?
Sure. I would start right where it's mowed and probably do 7 feet between each one and then come down the other side. So it would just be a short distance.
I see, so it'd be on the path, but on each side of the path? you'd
Yes,
go down and come
about
back.
15 on each side. And
Is it mowed wide enough? Is that wide enough the way it is now?
I think so,
Looked at it?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions for Carrie?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Do they stay pretty good on the stakes? I mean, I've seen the one downtown. I love story walks, but do you ever have a problem with losing any pages, having them come unstuck or blow away?
Generally not.
Okay.
With the horizontal pages, we've put some reinforcement of duct tape on the back just to be sure. Sometimes at the library with mowing, they become a little bit loose, but I would be willing to check on it daily just to be sure in case we have any extreme weather and they need to be reinstalled. But it's relatively easy to do with the mallet. It really wouldn't have a negative impact on the area in any way.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing we could do, I'm not entirely sure who's mowing that path. I don't think Melissa Sharples is our contact for that property, but so we can maybe, if we endorse it, which I assume people will, we can make sure it's mowed before you put them in, right? So it's, because I think they usually mow trails every 2 weeks, and you said it'd be a week. So if we can mow it right before that,
That would
then
be
it would be
great.
nicely, be in nice, good shape.
Terrific. I did mention to Karen Bloom that I was bringing this idea forward,
Okay.
and wanted to just get her opinion about how it might impact mowing. And because it would sort of go into the field that isn't mowed, it wouldn't really impact their ability
Right, so
to
you're
keep
thinking
it
of,
mowed.
there's the mowed path, and you'd stick it just into the unmowed part.
I think so.
Yeah, but it'd still be nice to have it mowed. It'd probably
Yes,
be easier
absolutely.
if it's mowed first.
It'd be
Were you
easier for
gonna
people to
say
enjoy.
something, Jeff?
just to make sure that they're not gonna hate it for some reason then.
Right, I know, we need to, but we'll,
Or
yeah.
ask the person who does to not run
Right.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I
We're still
appreciate
trying to
that.
sort out how the management happens out there. So, okay, any other questions for
Okay.
Harry? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you so much.
Great idea.
Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate your
yeah.
support.
How will we know what the book is gonna be? Do we get
Oh,
advance notice of the book?
I apologize. I meant to tell you, it will be this one, Henry Hikes to Fitchburg, based on the life of Henry David Thoreau. So I think it's a nice
Oh,
one
that's
for hikers.
wonderful.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks for coming.
That's cute.
Okay, next up, we're going to talk about, she is back there. Heron Point Sanctuary. A couple things related to that. And first up, Amy Benson is back there. If you want to come up, Amy, and reintroduce yourself and tell us about what you've been up to out there.
Okay, hi. I don't know if you guys remember me, but my name's Amy Benson. I saw you guys a little bit last year. It's weird, I can like kind of see you, kind of not see you. Sorry. Anyway, so last year I got, for my Eagle Scout project, I wanted to do trail work over at Heron Point, and I came to you guys, because what else was I going to do? And over the past couple months, I was able to fundraise a lot of money and close down the old trail, which we all know was like eroding and becoming very rooty and not like nice at all. And I created the 2 new ones that we wanted, and then I also placed a picnic table at the point. And I'm here today to say it's done. You know, congratulations, we did it, everybody. First off, and then second off, I'm here to hand over the leftover money from my project, because it officially goes to you guys for helping me, like supporting me in my project and my journey. So I'm not sure who to give this to.
Do you know how much is there?
I do. It's $1,077.60.
Goosebumps.
Wow,
So
Amy.
that all goes to you.
You can give it to Sue. You can.
So
Wow.
yeah. So I raised slightly more, a little bit more than that, and that all went to helping supply just tools and food for the workers, along with getting the picnic table itself and tools to like place that. But the rest all goes to you. Assuming I counted that right. Again,
That's right.
it could be a cent or two off, and I apologize, but I counted it like 5 times, and I was like, oh my gosh, it should be right. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, but I don't know.
Thank you, Amy. I was out
Wow.
there that day. You were working on the trail. It was a great group of people. You did great work, great leadership. It was awesome.
Thank
It
you.
looks really great out there.
Oh, have you gone out there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Really good.
How did the picnic table installation go? That was last weekend?
It was last weekend. Yeah, it went really well. We had a group of like 10 or 12 people. I was worried because it was a pretty big picnic table, and like 2 people can move it, but like once we had like 8 people just pick it up and haul it, it was so easy and so nice. It took maybe like 15, 20 minutes to get it out there, and that was it.
So this is on the point, the end of the Orange Trail now, and really beautiful view from there.
Yeah.
So,
I saw it the other day, I was out
Oh.
2 days ago, as a matter of fact. Kind of cool out there.
nice.
You bring the table out complete, or you bring it out pieces and put it together out there?
We brought it out completely. Yeah, yeah, you saw it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Great job.
Ellen, do you think we could take just like 68 seconds and have a picture of you and Amy together? Because it could be interesting to get some publicity like that with
Sure.
with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Must be the money. If you're gonna take a ride with. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have all these pictures of you guys out on nature, bench, and granite, and leaves, and slugs, and whatever. It's just nice to know, like, these people are here indoors as well. You know, consequences of life. Well, the fluorescent lights are down. Thank you so much.
The only other thing, I was just wondering, could you sign off on just saying that I officially like handed this over to you guys, and that the project was completed, and that I didn't like, you know, and try to screw you out of getting what you were supposed to get.
What's next on your docket?
I don't know. What's the next project here?
They're not going to graduate and go off to college or anything, right?
Not yet.
All right.
Not yet. I don't know if I'm going to graduate, so we'll see.
Wow. Well, it's a joy to have seen your work and progress, and from the first meeting till now, it's really been exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Oh wait, there's your pen.
Wow.
I don't think we've ever gotten a donation back from an Eagle Scout project. That's fantastic. Incredible amount of funds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Need something. I got you.
That's great.
Wow.
So actually going along with that, we are still working on creating the new interpretive panels for the kiosk. So now that we have our trails are done, and we have a draft trail map, which you should have gotten in your packet. So if you remember, Greg DeSantis was our trail guy from last fall, so he's the one that did the trail map, and we're going to take this. He's also done a nice watershed map of the Lamprey River watershed that will say you are here. And then our graphic designer, Kathy Arel-Kellian, is going to take all this stuff and some other material that I've been putting together and make these really beautiful 3 panels for the kiosk. But we did want to get the draft map out for people to provide a comment. We put it out on social media, and it's going to go in the e-news tomorrow, just because it's such a public park, and it would be really nice to get feedback. We have a community that lives right there, and so we really hope people will take a look at it. And it's a pretty simple trail map, but we also want to make sure it's accurate and it works for people. So I don't know if you all had any suggestions or comments on the draft map, or
About the kiosk, did you end up getting any photos of a cormorant or of?
No, but I've got lots of others, and there's a really cool from the Historical Society, an historic photo from up on the hill, the church, one of the churches in the foreground, and then looking over to Heron Point, it's almost entirely bare, right? It was
Oh, that's cool.
1903, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
That's neat.
Which is pretty amazing, because that means the whole forest has come back since there, which is typical, right, of the landscape around here, but it's kind of neat to have that photo, and it's pretty clear, so so we're going to hopefully use that, and and then there's some other beautiful photos
Nice.
that we can use. Yeah.
See it in my packet.
I do have some access to some 1940s and 50s aerial imagery.
Oh, okay.
And I could probably see if we have that kind of.
Oh, that'd be awesome, Matt.
Yeah.
That'd be really nice. If you can take a, that'd be great.
And so, Ellen, this is sort of like one of the 3 panels, kind of, right?
Yeah, so this will be, the kiosk is already there, so there's a little bit wider panel in the middle, and then the 2 on the side are a little bit more narrow.
Yeah.
So it's not the ideal shape for horizontal maps and watershed map, but the idea, I think, would be to have the trail map and all that information in the center, and then one will be about the watershed, Lamprey River watershed, because they help fund the Lamprey River Advisory, help fund it, plus we want to talk about the Lamprey River, and then one will be more of that historical, kind of the ecology and the history and that kind of stuff. That's the general idea. So I'm going to get all this stuff to Kathy probably in a week or so, and then she'll take some time to draft the panels, and those will come back to us for review.
Nice.
And that'll be like the final piece
Nice.
for Heron Point.
And I don't know if we had settled on it, but I think we had talked about maybe also putting a map of all the, like a wider map of all the conservation properties.
That will also be on
each
there, actually.
property?
That will
Okay.
probably be on the watershed one too, yes. So it'll be, again, here's Heron Point, but go visit some of these other places.
Okay.
It'll show where parking areas and which ones have trails,
Okay,
So.
I think that's great.
if we can get that all together. So we put out on social media and then in the e-news, it's like, if you have comments, get them to, basically Bart is our email person, so people have like a week if we could get comments back. So if you all have any comments, take another look, and then we'll finalize it. So that's moving along. The other thing I put down for Heron Point, you may recall we had Newmarket Cares Day, which was the partnership with the Newmarket Community Church and the high school, and we had a great group of students. Melissa was there to help out, and we met Silas Richards, who is their high school social studies teacher. He was their mentor with us, or the advisor that day. And apparently he's the advisor for this environmental organization, which I didn't know about, called Net Zero, which is the high school environmental organization. So I included his email and their newsletter because they're interested in partnering potentially on future projects. And I thought it might be nice at some point to have them come to one of our meetings and talk a little bit about what they do and see how we might partner in the future. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Their newsletter's really impressive.
Very impressive newsletter,
Yeah.
Net Zero. They're doing,
Written well, good graphics.
they work on solar stuff, rain barrels, gardens. Yeah, very impressive. So that'd be great. It'd be great to partner with them.
What's Silas' last name?
Richards.
Richard, thank you.
Yep. Any thoughts on that, or seem like a good idea to have them come at some point?
Yeah, great.
All right. Okay. All right. Moving on from Heron Point. So we got an award for our Conservation Connections event last October. And this says Newmarket Rec Connect 2022 Recognition Event Program of the Year, Making a Difference in Our Community. This was presented a few weeks ago, and Chris, can you tell us a little bit about this award that we got?
Sure, I'm happy to. There were a Business of the Year, which Business of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, and Event of the Year. So we got Event of the Year, and it was really nice that Carrie was there as well, attending. So it was nice to be able to say that this event also was possible because the Conservation Commission was able to use the rec center vans that made a tour of conservation properties that we highlighted. And then Ellen had a spearheaded a project at Heron Point that day as well. And the fallout of this, and writing about the fallout in a good way, was the things that have continued since then. So there was a 4-month book series with conservation topic books that Lauren at the library, and through the endorsement of the trustees and Carrie, had a Zoom group formed that was a book talk group. And there was one of the presentations that day was Dick Lutz from RCCD, and he gave a great talk about bird watching and where to find, where do you want to start this hobby in our area. The fallout from that became he's led 4 bird watching trips through the Sunrise Sunset Center and their vans. One was scheduled for the other day, but for a couple of reasons that one had to stop. It's postponed until September. And it was great to be able to explain to people that this time of year now until September, you have to be really expert to go see. We were very rewarded in the springtime to see migrating birds, and we saw 23 different types on those different days that we went. So we're on hold now until September. There's one scheduled for September and one for October. So there's been a very active bird group that got born from that event. And more fallout from that event has been, as you know, we as a group decided to have October 15th be Rec Connections number 2, which is October 15th. And that date is going to be, we're having it here instead of the rec center this year, so that we can have speakers that can zoom in with the help of the tech department here and with this big screen. So that's in place. I shouldn't say it's in place. I have to go do the paperwork to reserve this room tomorrow or Monday. And we have the rec center support again with the use of vans for tours for select sites that we haven't yet identified or even talked about, but we'll have rec vans touring. Some suggestions included, is it too late in the year? Could we have kayak tours? Or is it too late in the year? Or October should be luxurious, but there's a group that wanted to know about bicycling and having some kind of bicycle event coordinated with the Rec Connect 2.0 October 15th. So it was heartwarming to have a trustee of the library was there, and she was able to be part of the thank you thing at the microphone for this award. And it's truly for everyone to share, but I think the most important people that share in this were the people who attended, because it was our first one. We had no idea what the reception be like, and it was at one point there were 45 people attending the workshops. Then there was another 15 or so out at the department, out at Heron Point, and then the van tours had another maybe 15, and with cars, we don't know for sure, but we know there were at least 15 cars. So I think for the first one, it was a success, and we either keep it that way or grow it or see what flavor it takes for October 15th.
Great.
So,
Thank you. And
Yeah.
are we going to put this upstairs in one of the
yeah,
cases?
I had asked previously about changing some of the photos upstairs from it's our photo exhibit up there, so I wanted to change some of those photos. Wendy said that was fine. So I was thinking change some of those photos, get a couple more printed from your project, Amy, and a couple of other sites, and have those photos matted, and then this can be on one of the shelves in one of those glass areas right up in the town hall. So it should get some good visibility and some good traction, and again, it's really thank you to the people that came and heard about it and wanted to see what it was all about.
Great.
More fallout, I think, includes Carrie, actually, you know, getting the endorsement tonight for Piscassic. We're looking for all kind of ways to get people out on those properties, so it's all good.
Yeah, lots of collaborations, and it's great. It's really nice. Great, thanks, Chris. Okay, moving along. Approval of our meeting minutes from May 12th, 2022. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll
Or a
make
second?
motion to approve. Second.
Or a second? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 2 abstentions over here, Chris and Sam. Alrighty. Finance report, we don't have a finance report. We didn't get there's some staffing issues in the finance office, so no report this month, but I don't think there should be much change from last month, so steady as she goes, and then next month we'll report this wonderful donation from Amy into our conservation fund. That's great. Okay, next up, or sort of next up, is Bart Mcdonough, our town planner, who is also our staff person in town, and he's got he can't speak because his throat is sore. So I'm going to try to speak for him, or you can jump in, Bart, if you want to. So Bart's working on a few things for us. He's working on Moonlight Brook and living shoreline stuff, and thinking about prime wetlands and some other research that will take some time. And Bart and I meet periodically to just sort of brainstorm about what are some of the issues we should be doing, and now that we have him as a staff person, it's really great. So one of the things that we talked about, because we both have some experience working in Durham, or being involved in Durham Conservation Commission and projects there, so we thought it might be really interesting to maybe start talking with some of our neighboring towns about, are there things that we can collaborate on? And the thing that we've chatted about, and people in Durham have chatted a little bit about, is trail connectivity. Because they have trails, we have some trails, other towns have trails, and people want to commute, people want to cycle, people want to use bicycles more than driving cars since it's getting really expensive. So we thought it might be good if either myself and Bart and their town planner and their conservation chair got together and just brainstorm to see if there are some things that we could collaborate on. Is that kind of?
Yeah, no, that's basically the gist.
Yeah. So I think what we want to just get your sense was, do you think it's beneficial for us to at least even just chat with neighboring towns to see if there are some things that we can collaborate on? There are some really regional trail stuff too. It could go well beyond Durham and Newmarket. Bart's very familiar with them, even out to the other side of the bay, and regional trail networks. So, and there's the rail trail, which is really close to us in Newfields. So trails were one of the things we thought about, but there could be others.
I think the idea is to have a holistic approach, instead of municipal boundaries, stopping there. So that was kind of the impetus.
We're kind of the only mammal that feels these boundaries, aren't we, though?
Yeah, it's self-imposed.
Yeah, and if you don't plan for them, then they get cut. The opportunity doesn't come along, and we're already getting pretty built out. But there might be some opportunities to. The other one that I had thought, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I think under town council. Actually, our town council rep isn't here. Just realized that. Now that we have Neal Mill Road as a Class A trail and Newfields has Halls Mill Road as a Class A trail, I think it would be beneficial at some point to talk with their Conservation Commission and see if there's anything we want to collaborate on. And I know the Southeast Land Trust is in the midst of hiring a trails person, which is a new position that they haven't had before. So I think once that person comes on, they own all that land along there, so they could probably help facilitate perhaps that conversation. So, but is there anything else that people can think of that?
The only other thing I can think of is a municipal agreement
Some sort of municipal agreement?
between municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we're just having the conversation now. So, brainstorming. But I think the ultimate goal is to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, so
So just start talking.
yeah,
Seeing what's
just start
possible.
talking now. Yeah. Not me. You have to-
Yeah. Do you want to mention that we didn't get the grant?
Yeah,
that we-
and Sam can speak to that too.
You're going to
as
speak
part
to
of
that later. Okay,
email.
that's right. You're going to talk about that under, Riverfront. Okay. All right. Is there anything else, Bart? I know you probably need to.
I think that's the gist right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, well. Okay, so let's move on to committee board reports. Planning board.
Our last Conservation Commission meeting was after our last
Oh,
planning
okay.
board meeting, so we haven't met since before that. I'll say that at our next meeting, we will be discussing again the stormwater changes to subdivision and site plan. So that'll be a discussion we'll have next Tuesday. And the folks looking to do some work at the Rockingham train station, at Rockingham Junction, will be back before us, so the changes of the trailhead area. So if you're interested in seeing that, so I didn't get a chance yet to look at the if there's a new plan proposed, but so that will be a discussion. If you're interested.
So you meet next week? Is you meeting
Next
next week?
Tuesday,
Next
yeah.
Tuesday. Okay, any other questions for Jeff? All right, thank you. Yeah, I just realized our town council rep, who we haven't had yet, is Colin White. I didn't hear anything from him, so I'm not sure. Oh, you're Colin. Okay, how come you're not up here? Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry, I should have recognized you. Yeah, you should be up here. Great, I'm glad you're here. So, do you have anything to report to us? Yeah, you should, I guess you're supposed to use a microphone, so you should.
I was not at the last town council meeting. I was in Myrtle Beach visiting my granddaughters.
Nice.
So, I will be there the next coming meeting, and I'm sorry that I missed the meeting prior to this,
No
but
problem, no worries.
I will attend and be prepared. I work for an HVAC company that right now you can guess we might be slightly busy. So I usually fly home and fly over to meetings. So apologize for coming a little bit unprepared, but
No problem. No, I'm glad you're here. We're glad to have you
Thank
as
you.
a rep. Yeah. So maybe if you could, well, that's right. You don't have to stay there, but one of the things that we wanted to, I wanted to discuss with commission was the council did approve reclassifying Neal Mill Road, Class 6 Road to a Class 8 trail. It was
Yes.
unanimous vote. But they did, if you remember a year ago, we also recommended that Oldie Road be part of that reclassification because it's a Class 6 road, and in Newfields it becomes a Class 8 trail. So now we have a Class 8 trail and a Class 6 road sandwiched in between the two. So it seems to make sense to try to reclassify that section of Oldie Road as a Class 8 trail. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, whether you agree with that or not. And if we agree, or whatever your pleasure is, then if we agree, we would recommend that back to the town council.
I have to abstain from giving any type of opinion on that as I am not up to speed on that, having just joined the council.
No, that's,
So I will take that back and ask the questions and get answers for you.
sure. Do we, is there any wish on the part of the commission to actually make a formal recommendation, or just wait to hear back from the town council? What would be your?
We made a former recommendation for the other section of the road, so I think it makes sense for us to make a formal recommendation for that. It's right kind of in the middle. It is a little strange.
Yeah, that would be my preference, is to say, we think you should consider that reclassification as well. So what I could do is write a letter on behalf of the Conservation Commission to the town council, and you guys can take it up at one of your future
we
meetings.
meet this coming Wednesday, so
Okay.
that would
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
That was in the original letter that we
Yeah,
sent to
so,
you as well.
yeah, if you look at the map, I actually updated the map that we had, so you probably can't see this, but the reddish color is now the Class A trail for Neal Mill, Halls Mill Road. And here's the little section, I don't know if that's quite the right length, but the section of the Class A trail on Old Lee Road for Newfields, but now we have this, we still have this section here. It is bordered by some private land, which is different than
Right.
unprotected, unconserved
Right.
private land, which is fine. So the process may be a little different, or those landowners are able to come forward and say, we don't agree, or we do or don't agree. But I believe that, I'm not entirely sure, but some of them are abutting the Class A trail in Newfield, so.
They're very difficult to access otherwise, because the
Yeah.
bridge isn't supportive of vehicles, I believe.
Right,
over
and-
that, so you can't really.
Right, and you can still do management access, forestry, farming, there's no restrictions on the Class A trail for those purposes, so. So we would include this map and the letter, so I will go ahead and do that. Can we make a motion to allow me to do that?
I'll make a motion.
You write a
I'll make
letter to the
motion
council?
To write a letter, yeah.
Okay.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so we'll send that letter and get that to you.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Nice to have you.
I guess my point being that their only viable current access by vehicles already over a Class A trail.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
to those private properties. 'Cause everything on the other side of the river is conservation easement.
Yeah, and legally, I don't know what that means if you have a Class 6 road in between a Class A trail, so.
Ellen, I had a quick one while we're still kind of on the liaison with town council, and I'm not sure exactly where this fits, so sorry, but we're already June, and I don't know the timeline. Maybe you know the timeline. When do we need to get a budget in? I know the cycle is much sooner than we think, so maybe between you and Colin, can you figure that out so that we know when to put budget proposals
Yeah,
in?
and Bart and I talk, because he's sort of our liaison now as a staff person.
Oh,
So
good,
he's going to
okay.
be able to help us, I think, put the budget forward. It first goes to Steve, I believe, as the town manager. And then, so I think we have time to talk about it in July as a commission and then get that to you. Does that sounds right? So we should put that on the July agenda. So I will not be here, but Melissa will chair the meeting, but I'll put that down as a note for that.
Yeah, string on the finger, thank you.
July meeting, thank you. Because that budget doesn't start until next July 1st, so we're always way out. Okay. Let me just make a note so I don't forget. Okay, Riverfront Advisory, Sam.
Yeah, so we had met on May 16th, and we're actually scheduled to meet again on Monday, the 13th. Primarily, our objective remains kind of unchanged from, I think, what I said in April, is that, we have had the opportunity to have a conceptual design for living shoreline at Shanda Park advanced for us. There is also some ongoing discussion within the town itself about how it wants to approach the Moonlight Brook outfall, also by Shanda Park. So the status hasn't overall changed. Most of our objective has been kind of starting to see what we can get for grant and funding and what opportunities are available. So Bart had put in for, I believe it was the Flood Smart program. All right, good. There's a lot of them these days, so they kind of blend together. The town was not selected to receive funding through that. I found my reading of the rejection message to be relatively favorable. It does still seem like there is interest for the project. So kind of our next objectives on Monday, we're actually going to be talking with Lamprey River Advisory Committee as well, just about aligning with their goals, and also start talking about putting in for the Coastal Resilience Grant opportunity through DES, which should be due sometime near the end of July again. So still kind of in the hunt for coming up with some funding and some planning efforts for this. But once we have a little bit more clear picture and can advance it more, we'll definitely start soliciting kind of more input from this committee about our ideas, just to make sure, we're aligned, especially since the commission itself is the landowner down there.
Mm-hmm. Questions for Sam, or? A couple sort of tangential things, because we're talking about Shanda Park, and I'll bring it up here. Amy, our rec director, has, I think we mentioned that before, she's willing to pay for an accessible portable toilet during her concert series down at Shanda Park. And I think she's still trying to find one, because it sounds like they're kind of all rented out.
They're all rented out. Again, breaking news. She wants to let us know that there is an increased cost. It used to be $75 a month, but now it's up to $175 to $200 for next year. So there's going to have to be some thinking about how to finagle, or not finagle, that sounds negative, how to work this in or around or with a budget. But the situation right now is the implausibility of just simply phoning the vendor approved by town saying we'd like this delivered on this day for this purpose. She has a couple of other ideas that she thinks that she's happy to try and work on, but they don't feel like they could be in place right now for June. So it wasn't for lack of trying.
So what's the current cost per month, and what's the proposed?
Well, they were used to paying something more like $75, and now the company is working under a different business model, and so the price is changed, the structure is changed to bring it up to $175 - $200 a month. Depends a little bit on the site and the drop-off.
And that's for the accessible one, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just takes a little thinking. It's not something that you can say, oh, we thought it was 50, well, it's going to be 175.
Yeah.
It'll take a little bit of thinking and projection a little bit.
Okay. So probably not happening this year, or at least.
I don't want to say that,
Yeah,
because
at
if
least
there's
not
one
this
thing she's very good at, it's positive and creative interface with other people to make things happen or see about plausibilities. But it will take a little more than just saying, we'll get to you on Monday for that.
Does she have the funding to cover that increased cost?
Well, I think the bigger issue right now is
just finding one.
if just simply how to
Okay.
find one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for that, and
Well,
to Amy as well.
it's really, thank you, Amy,
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Thanks for trying.
No, she's very interested in the networking and the accessibility and the DEI issues and everything surrounding having it truly be accessible.
Yeah. Be good. Okay. And the other one I'll mention is because there was discussion in, I think, some of the earlier grants about this concept of a bridge across the Lamprey River to Heron Point, and that hasn't really been discussed much or talked about. So there's always have to be a lot of issues discussed about that. But I sent Bart, there's a conservation easement deed that goes with that property. When the property came to the town, there are deed restrictions for Heron Point. Basically, it's a nature preserve, and open dawn to dusk and that kind of thing. So I asked Bart if he could have the town, if Steve would approve the town attorney to look at it, to see if a bridge is allowed or not allowed, or if any kind of structure, basically, because that's usually the limitation, is you can't put a structure. So did you get any feedback yet on that? No. Okay. So the town attorney is reviewing that. So at least we'll know whether the deed even allows such a thing, to even have the conversation. And I think that would help the committee if you decide to talk about that some more.
And obviously, for anyone who may not be aware, one of the things that has been discussed in some respects is a potential pedestrian bridge from the downtown side of Newmarket over to Heron Point. Obviously, a pretty lofty goal. Has not been discussed much recently. Our focus seems to have been on Shanda Park and Moonlight Brook, mostly just because we had interest and grant to advance that aspect of it. So I think we're focusing mostly on that as just being the most tangible thing going. But I think long term the bridge is definitely still in play if supported.
Yeah, great. No, I think that's a good priority. So. Yeah, you have to, can you go up to the microphone, because they have to record.
In terms of the bridge, was there any considerations to how it might limit boat access and stuff like that underneath, and would it be high enough?
Yeah, I think it's recognized that something you would have to allow boat. It's, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I think you said
So
a lofty goal.
we're I want to say like a 1% past the idea of it.
Okay.
So it's like there was an idea, and then we took like a little shuffle step past that. But some of the siting obviously hasn't even been determined, and so preliminary. But that was one of the drivers, is that basically the navigable portion of Lamprey River ends right along our waterfront as you approach the dam. So some of the sites that were kind of thought about are within that navigable portion, others are outside of it. So it would be a weighting criteria, if and when that ever moved forward.
Interesting. Thank you.
Just want to say there's some other planning opportunities. A New Hampshire Plan Grant to bring a bunch of planners from around the state to do like a charrette, so we can connect with the stakeholders and envision for the town what the town wants to see for the river waterfront. So I'm looking into that opportunity for the town, which I think be fantastic. And I think it'll solve some challenges that we have right now, which I think right now we have a fragmented stakeholder group and not a unified effort. So I think the first effort on our part, besides Shonda Park, is creating that environment and that space to talk and envision what the town wants for the riverfront. So we're getting there.
Yep, great. Yeah, so I don't know if everybody could hear that, but Bart says it's bringing the stakeholders together for a charrette and get some, maybe New Hampshire Plan grant to help do that. It seems like a great idea. Great. Anything else, Sam? Are you good?
I am good.
Good. Thank you. So I'm going to put under here, Melissa Brogel would like to say a few words.
Unfortunately, tonight is going to be my last meeting. I don't want to leave, but I had to move, and I moved out of town, so I can no longer be on the commission. It wasn't something that was really planned. It kind of all happened very quickly. I've been sort of looking to move for years, and I really wanted to stay in Newmarket, but it just wasn't financially possible for me. So because I don't live in town, I can't be on any town commissions or boards. So I'm really sorry, because I know I just applied for this seat, and I really wanted to be involved. And you guys do awesome work here, so I know that will continue, especially under Ellen. The two things that I've been most involved with, one is the cleanup, and I've talked to Juliana about that, and she's prepared to take that over, and I'm really excited about that. We met a couple weeks ago, and she has some really awesome ideas, even better than my ideas, so I think it'll be even bigger next year. So that's going to be really great. And then I had just started making flyers for the monthly guest speakers. This was only the second month that I did it. So I talked to Melissa Sharples about that, and she's going to take that over. And she could also probably help with the flyer for the October event too, Chris. And I know you book a lot of the speakers, so I'm sure she'll be getting some of that info from you. I'm hoping over time that we'll get more of the public here, to learn something new and just get more involved in town conservation business. So, hopefully if that continues, maybe we'll get more public here. So I'm sorry. I'm sad to go. I really have had a lot of fun working with the commission. So.
Well, thank you for all your work that you've done.
Yeah.
Really been helpful getting that message out and getting more people aware of things. And of course the cleanup was great. So and thank you for agreeing to take that over. So yeah, we'll miss you.
I know.
You're still at your not my business job.
Yes, still at Great Bay. Yeah, I'm still at the Great Bay Reserve, and I don't plan to ever leave there. I will retire there when I can't, lift a shovel anymore, and it'll be fine.
Well, that proximity is important, because I think there's things that we appreciate about that site and things that we can do there. And that garden is, in fact, on the garden tour. Yes. So you can run, but you can't hide.
Yes, exactly. And I'm still involved in Newmarket in other ways, too. So I'll maybe see you guys walking around. So.
Great. Thank you. Thanks again. Okay, well, we're moving along to events. So some of the events coming up, the Fishing Derby is the 18th, which is next weekend. You got in your packet, which is related to the Living Shoreline, there is, well, sort of delivering shoreline, but there's a resilient shoreline tour. I think you got that in your packet, and one of the sites is the Lumberland Creek Culvert. It's a very cool project that the town was involved in, of course. So that looks pretty interesting. Interested in that. Chris, you want to say a little bit on June 25th, the How Does Your Garden Grow tour?
Sure, that's a first for the rec department as well this year, and there are quite a dozen residential sites, different themes, different types of gardens, different things highlighted in those gardens. Perhaps of particular interest to the rec department would be these gardens are from one end of the town to the other, with the one side, the Durham side, being the Newmarket Community Garden. Maggie Shire will be there and talk a little bit about what are some of the ecological practices or expectations of participants in that garden. And the other end of town, it's the only site that's not in Newmarket on the Newmarket Garden Tour, is the Wildlife Habitat Community Garden. That's the Fish and Game site right at Chapman's Landing. So interestingly enough, I thought of that garden, Carrie, when you were talking about the book you've chosen, because that site has that little structure. People drive by it all the time. I encourage you to go on the garden tour and go to that garden, because you see that site on the left that looks like just a frame building. It's not random. It's the exact measurements of Henry David Thoreau's cabin on Walden Pond. So the next time you drive by it, say, I'll be darned, or get out of your car and go look at it, because there's also a raised bed there that's just the shape of a bed, the measurements of a bed. And when you first look at it, it's kind of goofy because it's not centered nice on a wall to be a balanced bed. But when you think like, okay, it's his cabin, and okay, there would be a bed, it's right where a bed would be in that little cabin. So that's a spoiler alert for people that might be watching this at home to hear about that garden. But I think those two sites really are things that are of interest to us. At the rec center, there'll be Pollinator Pathways exhibit. There's a vermicomposting exhibit. The rec center has a kids scavenger hunt, and there's a story walk at the rec center as well right now in their community garden, in their Monarch Way Station garden, which is a Fish and Game designated site, and it was the only one of two municipal sites. The rest are school sites. So Newmarket's kind of lucky to have Fish and Game involved with us, and now we're reciprocating with having that garden be on the garden tour. Information about it is going up at storefronts near you, and the web page is live at the rec center. You can sign up there if you'd like to take van tours of the site. You can take yourself on the tour, free, self-guided, or you can book yourself a seat on the van and enjoy that comfort of being driven around to some of the sites. There's a morning tour with half the gardens, and there's an afternoon tour with a different half. So that's the story of that.
Great, that sounds really interesting. And then I'm going to put in the spot for the next one, our July 14th monthly meeting, the guest speaker.
Yeah, the guest speaker is Nate Grays. He's actually a municipal association attorney with conservation law as his specialty. He was a guest on a radio show I did with Dick Lutz, and in the course of interviewing him a little bit before the show for his biography and introducing him, I realized that he's actually quite a well-known expert in carnivorous plants and bog plants. So he was on the radio program to talk about conservation law and easement law, but it was just too interesting to say, golly, I wish you would be able to talk about, I want to hear more about these carnivorous plants. So he's our guest for July's meeting. You can look him up with that spelling online. He's got a couple of interesting blog places to see pictures of his plants and his expertise, and he's got an Instagram and whatnot. And then our August meeting is booked as well. That's going to be Barbara Richter, and she'll be here in person talking about the benefits or what are some highlights of the New Hampshire Conservation Commission. I did that wrong. NHACC, New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. She's going to talk about what their work has entailed this year, give a little legislative update, and talk a little bit about the other things that they could offer to us, similar to the kind of things that Matt taught us tonight about what his group can offer us. So that's August, and the other months will fall into place. But I hope people are really excited to hear about the carnivorous plant. I kind of feel like a middle school kid, like, oh, the carnivorous plant. It feels like really exciting. And he's a really wonderful speaker. I think you'll really enjoy him.
Nice.
He will be via Zoom.
Okay.
He actually lives up in northern Grafton County.
Okay. Great. And I put this on here, but I may need you to explain it too. August 5th, some townwide bash. Yeah, and the Conservation Commission might like to be involved in that too. The planning stages are just barely starting. This is going to be at the rec center.
and on their property there, and it's truly a prenatal planning session right now, but area organizations are being invited, and town departments are being invited to figure out what would you like to do at that site. The plans include several bands. The current plan is a dusk, like 5 o'clock to 9 or 10 o'clock. Different food vendors, or if your organization said, hey, it's a great fundraising opportunity for us, we'd like the visibility, we're going to sponsor thus and such as a game, or thus and such as a fundraiser. For instance, the cheerleaders are going to do a 50-50 raffle. That was kind of the person power they had to do that. Other people are getting more involved with the idea of a cornhole tournament. So we might put our heads together and think it's as simple as we want to have a table that's got our maps at that point, August 5th. So anyway, I would encourage people to at least keep your eyes open and consider a lovely summer night. Could be to go to the rec center and have some kind of a snack, meal outdoors, hear a band, and meet other people. It's got a little overtone of an old home day, so that might kindle some soft spot in your heart or some nice memories about people getting together in the summertime, when the haying was done and people kind of kicked up their heels before the fall work began on farms. So there's a little flavor of that involved.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have October 15th, Conservation Connections, the event that we've talked about before, which we got the award for last year. Okay, anybody have any other things to report or present? Will we wrap up and go listen to some congressional hearings or something, I guess is going on? Okay, well, have a motion to adjourn?
I always hate to do that because it sounds like, yeah, let's get out of here.
Okay,
but-
somebody can second?
One second.
All right, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right.